Alright, in this lesson we're going to learn about building a graph. And by the end of it, you should be able to learn how the graph structure should be and a possible way of approaching finding a proper scale. Also, you should be able to plot the points by the end of this. So first off, let's look at what the graph structure is supposed to look like. You have two axes, your y-axis and your x-axis, each with their own quantity name, the symbol, and the units. Now, the quantity name and the units are mandatory, but the symbol is optional. Sometimes your symbol may not be as simple as you think. Alright. Once you finish that, you have to simply choose a scale, and we'll see about how to choose a scale later on. Once you choose a proper scale, make sure that the scale itself takes up at least half of the plot region, and this here is the plot region where your points will go. Alright. After which you put a graph title, and that will be the structure of the graph. Make sure you have your title, your scale, your quantity name with the units, and your plotted region with your points plotted properly. Alright? You do not have to box off the plot region, nor the scale region, nor the graph title region. Alright? So let's choose a proper scale. When we want to choose a scale, first thing, let's simply look at the algorithm that you can work with. We're going to use these values, and these values are going to be x-axis values. Alright? Just simply repeat for the y-axis. First thing that you have to do is determine what the maximum and minimum is for your given axis. So on this x-axis, we see that the maximum is 3.1 and the minimum is 0.0. Next, we're going to find the range, and the range is simply just taking the maximum and minus the minimum, and we get a value of 3.1. In some cases, it will not always be 0, and you will have to say, for example, start at this value here, maybe 1.1. Alright, and the reason that I show you this is so that you would understand even distribution. Next, we determine the amount of space available on our axis. So on the x-axis, there's usually 18 centimeters of space, which approximates to 90 blocks. Now, the reason we say 90 blocks is because this is what a typical sample of the graph sheet is going to look like. We see in that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little blocks takes up approximately 1 centimeter. And if you take 18 and multiply it by the 5, you will get your 90 blocks. Now, all you have to do is simply take a range and divide it by your amount of space available, and you round up if necessary to get a suitable plot value. So notice 3.1 divided by 90 is equal to 0.034 recurring units per block. And that means that we are going to have to count this amount for every little block that we are plotting. Now this is very difficult to plot. We can't simply increment in this value. So what we have to do is we simply use a rounded up approximation, 0.2 units per centimeter. And by the time you're done doing this, you will be able to get the entire scale using up approximately at least half. Alright? Now, when you state your final answer on your scale is going to say something like this. 1 centimeter represents 0.2 units on the x-axis, where this units here stand for whatever units it is you're looking at. Say, for example, we're looking at speed, meters per second. If we're using distances, 10 meters, 0.2 meters. So this unit here is whatever unit that you're concerned with. And last thing we have to do is learn how to plot the points. So let's say we have a sheet of graph paper. This is a sample sheet. And we are going to work on the assumption that you already put your labels here and your labels here, and your scale is in the corner here worked out properly, and you have your graph title at the top. We're going to have our two axes, and what you're going to do is, let's say for instance that you have a point on the graph. Let's say it's approximately 3, 4. That is our point. This means that we have an x-axis value of 3 and a y-axis value of 4. So when we look at off 1, 2, 3, we simply put our vertical and imaginary vertical line here. And then we count off the 4 on the y-axis, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we simply draw off a horizontal line here. Where this vertical and horizontal imaginary line intersect here is the point at which we are going to put the plot point. Now you can either use a dot with a circle around it to mark off that point, or you can use a cross to mark off that point. One or the other. Whichever one you use, make sure you're consistent with it throughout. And that will be how you go about building your own graph. So if you have any questions or comments, you can simply leave a message with the video or send me an email. Thank you.